Deadpool 2 is entirely underwhelming. Also on today's show, Deadpool 2 is the greatest movie of all time. And Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson apparently has a gym membership. Movie Talk starts right now. Rocha, you were a big fan of The Rock's look on that vid.
I've been to that gym. I don't want to go to that gym. It hurts so much.
You don't want to be the second biggest guy
No.
at the gym. Welcome to Movie Talk alongside T, Rocha, and Schnepp. I am merely Mark Ellis. Very excited to be back. Thank all you guys for being at South by Southwest and saying hi to me this weekend. This Thursday, we obviously have the huge movie trivia schmodown live event that is going to be going on right here in North Hollywood. You can get tickets at fullscreenlive.com. More on that later in the show. Our top story today is the conflicting reports that have already surfaced regarding Deadpool 2. The movie doesn't even open until May 18th, but we already have rumors of test screenings, with the one rumor on Twitter saying that the movie is not good. It is entirely underwhelming. It is hugely disappointing. This according to Twitter, so take it with a monster grain of salt. And then some more reliable sources came out against that viewpoint, saying that there has been 2 test screenings, and this is according to our own Steve Frosty Weintraub at Collider.com, saying that both early test screenings of Deadpool 2 have impressed everyone that was at the screening, so much so that they both have earned over a 90 rating, which is the same scale that we all were graded on in high school. So the movie's getting an A according to these sources. Rocha, a whole lot of stuff going on here. Yeah. Do you buy one report over the other? How does this stuff get out, and why is it at such a conflict with each other?
Well, that's a loaded question. There's a lot going on here. I think you have to look at, I always rely on the more credible sources, people who actually are interviewing these people in these screenings, have access to these executives. I do not rely on people who just walked into this industry and are trying to make a name for themselves and then spouting out stuff saying, I heard, and the studio, I heard from people. Unless you're citing people, you're wasting my time, okay? So I'm tired of this happening, all that these people trying to establish themselves saying, well, I heard the studio said this, and I heard this, and I heard that, and it's ridiculous to me. And also because you have to question the agenda of these people who come out this way and say these kinds of things, because you're like, well, what's your point? Are you, because if you're the same person who complains that a certain type of movie or certain superhero movie or certain movies from a certain universe are like unfairly maligned before they come out, then don't come out and do the exact same thing about another movie that's not in the universe that you like or enjoy. So you have to question the motives of what people are doing. Now, that being said, the stuff about fans, this is what it is. This is like kind of like the indirect consequence of this whole world we've created the last few years of being obsessed about these movies, is that we take any little tidbit and run with it, and people want to comment and talk about it and make a big deal. And we love drama. Reality TV shows started years ago. We just love the drama, and that's what people run to. So for me, I will buy Frosty over anybody else most times. And so I think what he's saying is correct. I believe that more than people who are not credible or don't have any credit or cachet in the industry spouting off on Twitter about stuff.
But Frosty's paid off by Fox.
Yeah, exactly. That kind of excuse.
Yeah, I mean, Schnepp makes a great point, is that everybody that you hear about a report of a test screening, you can throw some sort of bar about. Like if you're just some random person on Twitter and you say, I heard this from an anonymous source, obviously that's a very easy theory to poke a hole in, but you can even say that with people who are in the industry who may have good friends that worked on the movie and they don't want to say anything bad about it. So where do you fall on this, Schnepp?
I find it laughable, and it's fun to be along for the ride on this dumb trip. Honestly,
a friend of a friend told me that someone ate a sneaker in Deadpool 2. I'm against eating sneakers.
It's like, try not to relax with the spoilers. That's what I would say. Like, there's a lot of people floating some stuff around, comparing it to other movies, and then you're like, well, the only thing that happened in that movie, oh, really? So they're dropping bombs like that, which I think is kind of sneaky. Look, I mean, we know Frosty, and we know he's not the type of person to lie. Yeah. So I mean, I'm going to trust what Frosty would say over a bunch of other people with hearsay and that. Not. But that being said, I feel like, hey, some people see advanced screenings and know to keep their mouth shut, and some people don't. And some people use that and use it as a way to get some kind of leverage or story or something. It's like all of us who've had inside information at one point or another have dropped a bomb left or right. for whatever reasons we wanted to. I know I've done it a couple of times, and I'll stand by all the stuff that I've said, so you can suck it if you don't believe me. But you know, the way this goes down is like I'll watch Deadpool regardless, and I'm hoping that it's not true. So
T, is there any defense that you can levy for fans if you're a pro bono lawyer and you have to defend people who go on Twitter and say, hey, I heard this from this person, I didn't see it myself, but oh man, is this a hot scoop? Do you take any of that into consideration?
Gosh, I mean, this is what makes me hate the internet, this kind of story, because it's so neither here nor there. Like, everybody just needs to fall back, because this is such a high profile, highly anticipated movie. There's a lot of eyeballs on it and a lot of dollars on the line. And in this day and age of social media and instant feedback and this weird like groupthink mentality, people always have to latch on to these binary ways of looking at movies. Oh, it's the best movie ever. Oh, this is the worst piece of crap I've ever seen. So people want to get in front of that before anyone's even seen it. Mm-hmm. It's ridiculous. Calm down, wait till the movie comes out, and then we'll talk about it.
That's such a great call. I love the binary euphemism because it's either a 0 or a 1.
Right.
There's no middle ground. It's either the best thing ever or it's awful.
Absolutely.
And now, Marvel Studio News is another outlet that's been reporting stuff about the Deadpool test screenings. And according to them, there's something really cool that happens in the movie, but it might bother some fans. That's the real thing that I think everybody's glossing over here, is that whether there is a huge reveal, there's a huge spoiler, there's this huge twist in the movie or not, is that in itself a spoiler? And we've had this discussion before on Movie Talk where, hey, Schnepp, there's a thing that happens, and when it happens, it's going to blow your mind. I don't know if any of this is true in this movie, so I can't consider what we're talking about now a spoiler, but do you like, as a movie fan, knowing that you're going into this giant movie that's a tentpole franchise and being aware that something is going to happen that's going to change the course of it entirely?
sometimes yes, sometimes no. It depends on the movie, depends on the mood I'm in. I mean, sometimes someone will come in and be like, I just saw this movie. I'm like, tell me all about it, because I don't care about spoilers on that specific film. But other ones I'm like, I don't want to see anything. I watched that one trailer. I'm good. I'm trying to avoid everything just so I could have that, the surprise that might be there without having to seen everything in the, like, we showed you the ending in every trailer. I'm like, usually I don't even want to see the Infinity War trailer. I'm hoping they don't show you the ending, the final cool shot with them doing stuff. They might. They probably do. They've done it in almost every Marvel thing. So the last trailer usually shows like, oh, there's Captain America and Iron Man punching each other. That's the end of Civil War, but that didn't really ruin it because it's called Civil War and they're like doing the face-off. You kind of expect to see that. So in that way, it's not really a spoiler. You'd be bummed out if that didn't happen. Imagine if they never met. So, I mean, certain trailers are kind of filled with spoilers, but spoilers that don't matter because it's part of what the movie's about. So I don't think anything that we saw in the Deadpool trailer was a spoiler, especially for this kind of thing that you're talking about. And if you walk away with the title of the movie and you think about it, then it's kind of a spoiler because it tells you, guess what's going to happen at the beginning and then guess what's going to happen at the end. So if that kind of stuff bothers you, avoid any of these stories about Deadpool 2, because if you got half a brain, you'll figure it out. And then if you are the anti-spoiler, you get bummed out. Mm-hmm. So for me, it doesn't really bother me, especially with Deadpool, because I know the other like 97 minutes are going to be filled with fun and action. So to me, it's like, that's kind of inconsequential.
Yeah, all these movies, because we all see these movies at different times now. We all have different screenings on different dates. That's why our new studio is set up so well, because there's a conference room that we have way off yonder in Narnia, where that's where I think everybody should go. If they've seen the movie, but not everybody else in the studio has seen it, you have to go to the private sound-off section where you can just yell about spoilers and stuff like that. And we don't hear it, because in the old studio, everybody just gather around our conference room and just talk about movies. And we had to literally walk up to it and say, hey, shut up. Nobody else has seen this movie yet. Right. T, do you, with a movie like Deadpool, I think that the biggest spoiler in the movie could actually be a joke. Could be like, hey, we're waiting for this really funny thing to happen and don't let anybody tell you what it's going to be, more so than any huge plot point.
Yeah, I mean, personally, spoilers don't necessarily always spoil things for me, but I don't think spoilers are beneficial to anyone. So just don't be a jerk and don't spoil things. But it's almost worse when it's one of those sort of like scavenger hunt spoilers. It's like, oh, I heard there's this really funny part involving a rubber duck. And you're just like, is this it? Is this the part? Like, that just really, it really gets on my nerves. Really crinkles my sphincter. So I think the best thing to do is just to not say anything if you think it's going to sort of cloud or paint someone's experience when they're watching the movie. Just keep it broad, keep it general if you know they don't really know what happens.
There's a great joke Rocha, and it involves a fishing pole and a license plate and a tire. Wait till you.
Yeah.
It's like you have to
But I'm not
MacGyver
going
the
to say
joke.
anything else.
Right.
Like,
Do you put a lot of stock in what even critics say when the movie comes out, like, or even a Rotten Tomatoes score? Like, once it's becoming official, or do you totally rely on your own judgment and don't allow it to be clouded by what the overwhelming majority of people might be saying?
it really depends on my mood. I'm a little bit like Schnepp in that way, where I do actually really love to go into a movie, sometimes not even knowing the premise. Sometimes I'll literally just look at, oh, like this many people liked it, and I'll be like, that seems like a lot. I'll check it out, and I won't even read the description. But other times, you do need to do a little bit more research because, movies ain't cheap these days. So we're lucky. We get to see a lot of movies for free. But if I'm shelling out my sometimes as much as $17, I might want to do a little bit more research.
Rocha, I want to get into this with you about anonymity, and because I'm very fascinated by the dark web, and most of the stuff that happens on the dark web,
not go in the dark web.
Anonymous is very trickery, and it allows people to be hooligans. But sometimes anonymity is crucial if you're outing people and you're saying, oh, this is happening in this political system, or this is a very controversial thing, and I can't either name myself or my sources. But this is a movie that has come out that you heard from somebody who went to a screening. Do you think it's proper in that standpoint that you have to cite your source? Or is there any time, like with this, for example, that we can say, hey, look, I can't say who's at the screenings. I don't want them to get hurt, but I heard this movie's not good.
But that's, once again, like I'm saying, that's what you got to question is the intention and the motive. This Conrad guy took all his tweets down because why? Because Fox threatened to sue him because whoever told him about it violated the non-disclosure agreement. So if we're going to give credibility to people who go to these screenings, sign non-disclosure agreements, and then shoot their mouths off to people who are on the internet, and then they're going to go and post these things, then what's the point? Like, that to me, it destroys the whole possibility of us. They might even ban the rest of us from ever going to screenings and be like, screw it, you're not even going to get a chance to review these things. We're just going to drop them and you're going to deal with it. So to me, I think it's a slippery slope, and the people who report this stuff really question their integrity, question their motives, right? Do they host a show that only talks about a certain kind of universe, and then, oh, why are they bashing a film from another universe? Like, those kinds of things you have to talk and explore and look at, and then take it with a grain of salt, and then find the people who legitimately are constantly reporting truthful things, good things, things that are both like factual and correct, and then follow them. Don't rely on anonymous sources because, like you said, it's not Deep Throat. It's a movie, and all of us work in the movie business, and all of us want these superhero movies to do well because it keeps us employed and it keeps them employed, and we keep seeing more of these great movies and see more of our heroes that we read on pages come to life on the screen. So I question the malevolence of people who want to undercut this kind of thing just for their own self-promotion.
And I just want to just add one more point to something you said. You were talking about the NDAs and reporting factually. I mean, at the end of the day, you can't even report. It's an opinion.
Right,
right.
It's one guy's opinion. And I remember the one and only time, or actually the first time I had to sign an NDA at a press screening was for Blade Runner 2049. I was just like, is this movie that bad that I have to sign an NDA? Right. And I ended up loving it. I really, really loved that movie. And it had nothing to do with the quality of the film. It had to do with the content of the film and not wanting to have, journalists and commentators spoiling it for the audience.
Yeah.
So suppose I had gone in there, hadn't signed an NDA, and I just didn't like that whatever twists or plot points that they had in there. That's going to taint the experience for other people who might like that instead. So really, it comes down to just personal opinion and maybe just not being a jerk and ruining things for other people.
I agree. I mean, I've gone to a few test screenings this year and a few last year. Like, I saw Mad Max Fury Road like 6 months before it came out and had to contain my excitement. It was like, I told a few people, like my friends, was like, you're going to blow it. Your mind is going to be. So it's like that kind of thing. But that's the kind of thing when you do go see an early screening of some film, you got to just sit on it, really. And that's the kind of thing where you're like, if you fill out a survey or any of that stuff, whether you're in the industry or not, you're not supposed to even be in the industry. Sometimes people, if you'll see them like, really, you're not supposed to talk at them. They're looking right at you. You're like, I won't say any. I swear, I won't say. Your word is your bond. I feel like, and I think that's the cool thing that cool people in this industry understand. And other people don't. So
when they do test screenings just at theaters, like you'll probably see them if you go to a movie usually in a major market like LA or New York, Chicago, Atlanta, something like that. When you're leaving a movie theater, sometimes there's people out there with clipboards and they're like, hey, do you want to see a movie? And it's not going to be released for 3 months. That's a test screening. Yeah. And they won't even allow members of the press. So even if it's a movie I really want to see, like if I'm walking out and they're like, hey, do you want to see that Han Solo movie? I'm like, yeah. They're like, are you a member of the press? And I'm like, Yeah.
You can't even be a family member of someone in the
No,
press.
I
Like
know.
they'll ask you that. You just, do you know anyone who's a member of the press?
It's kind of like McDonald's Monopoly, where like, oh, I can't wait to win McDonald's Monopoly, but if you work at McDonald's, sorry, you can't win the Dodge Viper, whatever you can win if you go to Park Avenue, which I ate a lot of hash browns trying to win that one year or every year. We're going to move on to a gentleman who definitely doesn't eat a lot of McDonald's. That is Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Him and the marketing team released a new clip for Rampage. The movie comes out April 13th, and in this new behind-the-scenes look, The Rock is where? You guessed it, at the gym talking about the new movie and that he is going to be a badass in, and this is a badass look at the new movie. And then some stuff goes down in the clip, and it's kind of a funny little tease. T, I love stuff like this when it comes from a personality that I enjoy, and The Rock, this is one of the reasons why he is the biggest movie star in the world right now, because he has such a huge level of fun with the audience, and I think it lends itself to this movie pretty well.
I don't think there's that many actors or movie stars who could pull off this kind of meta marketing kind of tactic, because he is maybe the most charismatic man in show business, hands down.
Right.
And he makes it fun. I like that he didn't even bother to turn his phone, by the way. Like, he still shot it vertical. And he's just so charming and fun. I was just like, I don't even particularly like feel that hyped about this movie. It looks like a real like brainless popcorn flick, but I'll watch it for The Rock. I mean, he will get my butt in that seat for sure.
Rocha, what do you think about this clip? What do you think about shooting promos from the gym? Is it something you would consider for an upcoming Schmodown night?
It's funny you say that. Maybe. But I will say this about The Rock. The man knows his audience. The man knows his market, and he knows that he's talked about the gym, his transportable gym. He talks about it in his interviews all the time, so it makes sense. And if you follow him on Instagram, he takes a lot of videos and a lot of pictures from the gym, so you know that's just part of The Rock. He's always in the gym, 4 a.m. You know, it's nuts. So it makes sense, and it's on brand. And the fact that he's playful and mixed in with these images from the movie, they look fun and popcorn, like you said, which The Rock can do. Like Jumanji was just a very sweet film, but he can also do things like this and really knock it out of the park. Old school 80s type action movies that are vehicles, right? He's still great at doing that. And so to me, I love this, and it's great stuff. And he's just one of the most charismatic people in the world. And for those of us who followed him since the beginning in wrestling when he's Rocky Maivia, it's amazing to see what he's become and what an incredible, like, powerful force he's become in the entertainment industry. And this is a lot of fun.
Oh, is that what you're going to say? Is that what you're going to throw at us? That, oh, I've been following The Rock back when he was like this cool little indie band. Right. Nobody else did.
I liked him better on his first
You know
album.
what? His first album was the best.
Rocha smelled what The Rock was cooking years ago. I was like whiffing the pan after he just cooked his first thing. I was like, I smell what The Rock is cooking. You didn't even know about him.
I remember when he hosted SNL for the first time, and
yeah.
it was basically off his wrestling fame. All my college players were like, you got to watch this episode of SNL. And I'm like, okay, so this wrestler's going to do it. And he was really good, Schnepp. And I think that you could see a little bit of foreshadowing in an appearance like that into not only what a movie star he's going to be, but what a marketing genius he's going to be.
Yeah, I watch him. I feel like I worked out already. Like just watching him in the gym. Thank you, Rock. I felt like I was feeling a little beefed up myself. Just drink some more coffee. That's for me. But I've pumped so many quarters as opposed to lifting weights and flexing. I dropped quarters into the machine called Rampage. I love beating up buildings and eating people and like grabbing the electrical thing and getting fried. So when I found out that they were making a movie about that video game, it wasn't as bad as Tetris. I was like, yo, that is just crazy. You know what I'm saying? Like, I can't wait for that Tetris trilogy. Seriously.
I'm waiting on
make
Pong.
it. Yeah, right? Which one?
Pong.
Pong. Oh,
I would
gosh.
actually, to be honest with you, I'd rather see Pong than Tetris, but we'll get into that later. But I'm just saying, Rampage, how are you going to do that? They added The Rock, and then all of a sudden, magic. Because it's like, now it makes sense. He's friends with George. I was like, as the very first trailer, I was like, they did it. You know, I haven't seen the movie yet. You know, I'll tell you about the test screening I saw yesterday. It'll be on my secret dark web. Anyway, I can't wait to see Rampage, and I love The Rock.
And
Yeah.
the poster's great too. Big meets bigger. You have him there, and then the gorilla above with George above him, which is great.
And I've said this before about Brad Payton. He's the director of Rampage. He also directed The Rock in San Andreas.
Yeah.
San Andreas, it was a fine popcorn movie. It ended up being the most expensive demo reel of all time. Because you make that movie, you say, hey, look at all this destruction, and we
Right.
can have The Rock in there. And then then when you're pitching your new Rampage movie, all you do is you say, now imagine there's a giant wolf, a giant crocodile, and a giant ape in there from a franchise we all love. So you get that 80s nostalgia.
Right.
This is shaping up to be a hit movie. T, does this movie have a chance to steal a lot of summer dollars? Is this going to be one of the biggest blockbusters of the year?
Potentially. I think with a movie like this, release date is critical. It's really going to be about what it's going up against, making sure it has enough space between the other massive movies that are on the way for this summer. But I think if they find the right weekend, and I don't know offhand what weekend that is, I must say.
It's April 13th. So they moved their release date up 1 week so they could have two free
they
weeks
already
before
knew what was up.
Avengers.
Yeah.
They already knew what was up. So I think that was a smart gambit on their part, so they can at least try to kind of front load those dollars before everyone is just like all Avengers all day for the rest of the summer.
Right.
There's a huge accordion act going on right now with all these movies because the Avengers moves up to April 27th, and so then Rampage moves up to April 13th.
Right.
And the movies that I think could really be affected are Tomb Raider, which I'm seeing tonight, and then we have Pacific Rim 2, and then Ready Player One, and they're all getting smaller and smaller windows with which to make that almighty opening weekend dollar. Schnepp, do you think that Rampage is going to be the biggest hit of all those movies that I just mentioned?
Outside of Avengers Infinity War.
Obviously outside of that.
It's hard to tell. I mean, you're absolutely right. They had to move their movie up a week because they're like, dude, we only have one weekend.
Yeah.
Like that's the kind of deep, like look at Black Panther. It was just like gobbling. It was like, I can't stop. So much money. Oh, I'll take all that. Just because the movies that were coming out after it, they were like, oh, well, Black Panther will have these 3 weeks and then we'll come in. Oh, no, you're not coming in. I'm sorry, steamroll. Like just like like towards Avengers Infinity War. I'm saying like I'm hoping Black Panther's still in the theater so I can see a double feature. That's what I'm thinking. And I think
Nice.
they're smart to do it. It's gonna keep going, man. And that's the power of a great film with a great word of mouth, with a lot of people want to see it, and a lot of people see it multiple times. So many more times that they'll see it again before they see a new movie. So it's gonna have to be one of these new movies that makes you want to. All right, I'll put another $17 instead of seeing this movie that I already saw that I loved. And I don't want to wait like 7 more months for Blu-ray. I want to see it in the theater again with my friends who didn't see it yet. We'll take a chance on this other film that I was thinking about waiting for Netflix. So that's the kind of world we're in right now. And then divvy that down with weekends. You're like, you only have 2 weekends before 3 other gigantic films open that are going to demolish your ability to make $50 million. You're at the $10 million world, son. So it's like you got the weekends. And they were smart to move up a weekend. Rampage is going to dominate whatever that weekend is. April 13th, that's the #1 film.
Yeah.
The following weekend, it's up for grabs.
It's going to be the #1 film again because
Yeah.
Super Troopers 2 is the biggest movie to open on April 20th now, which makes sense because it's 4th of
Well,
20.
Super Troopers 2 is going to be it's going to make $400 million. $420 million.
I'm not saying it doesn't deserve to make $420 million opening weekend. I don't think it will.
I know.
Rocha, let me throw these movies at you, and you tell me which one's going to have the biggest box office opening weekend, okay? So you got your Tomb Raider, which I believe could be this weekend, and then you have Pacific Rim 2, then you have Ready Player One, and Rampage.
Come on.
Now,
That's
I
too many
know-
movies every week.
I know you're hyped up.
I
I know
am.
you're excited.
Hype.
I know you've been following The Rock on Instagram since 1993. And I know
Before
he's
they
been
even had
motivational to
Instagram.
you.
My dog.
You're pumped up. You're feeling the juice. Do you think Rampage is going to be the highest opening weekend of all those movies?
No. As much as I would like it to be, I think Ready Player One is getting so much buzz now about how good it is. And people have wanted Spielberg to go back to the old school Jurassic Park days, that kind of stuff. And that's what the reviews seem to be indicating.
I don't think
people
so.
are excited to go see this movie. Trust me,
I don't
the
see
reviews
it.
are all
I see
waiting.
Rampage doing it, man.
Yeah, that's my opinion. I'm trying to give my opinion here.
I know, but you're
I'm
wrong.
telling you, Ready Player One. And then Rampage.
Just kidding. No, I'm with
I think
Ellis.
Rampage is going to surprise. I think it'll do more than Deadpool. I think it'll do more than a Tomb Raider.
What?
I really do.
You think
I
Rampage will
really
do more than
Wow.
Deadpool
Yes.
too? Well,
Yep.
that's where
I
you're
don't-
wrong.
I don't agree with
I mean,
that.
let me explain. Let me explain why.
All right, explain, please.
Because The Rock crosses over.
Right.
There's no blue state or red state with The Rock. The Rock crosses over all the states, and
Right.
he's generational. Dads, grandfathers, sons, grandmoms. They all love The Rock, and I
Right.
think people can't underestimate his appeal to that. Whereas Deadpool might be a little more provincial, might be a little more this or that, and it's an R-rated film. It's gross.
Grandmas
they're gonna
love
make those
Deadpool
two-
because it's rated R.
Some
and
do,
it crosses
some
over
don't.
red and blue and everything.
I don't
all
know,
colors.
but it's
He's
also
red.
R, so it's going to be less people
I
calling
would
it
just
an R-rated film.
I would just disagree
That's
with you.
fair.
I feel like
Sure.
Rampage is going to make a ton of money in its opening weekend. Deadpool's going to make way more because everybody
Yeah.
loved the first Deadpool, whether they thought they were going to love it or not. Then they finally found out about how cool it was.
Right.
I think regardless of whatever people are saying about like this or that about the this one spoiler or that, people are going to go see Deadpool 2 in droves.
Do you think-
Why?
I
Because
gotta
they want to
agree.
laugh.
I
They want to
take-
have fun.
I take your point, Roka. I do feel like The Rock transcends any cultural and social. Like everybody loves The Rock. Like I am willing to see a bad movie, undeniably bad. I don't even
Right.
have any doubt that Rampage is not going to be a good movie, but I will see it because The Rock's in it.
I thought you were talking about Fate and Furious because I had to sit through that. But The Rock was one of the best parts. Him and Jason Statham, that prison scene. I was like, make a movie out of that.
And
Right?
they did.
And they're doing it. So.
I actually wanted them to
But I
burst
don't think
into
there's
music.
any
Sorry to cut
way.
you off. Go
I was
ahead.
just going to say, I don't think there's any way that Deadpool is going to make less money than Rampage. It's just no way.
I think Deadpool 2 is going to be fine financially, and I don't think that these reports we're talking about today are going to have any effect on Deadpool 2's box office. I don't think it's going to do what the first Deadpool did opening weekend. I'll say that. I think it's going to make less than the first Deadpool did just because it's not this like huge, shocking thing that we're so excited to see. We're excited to see Deadpool 2, not to the level of the first one. I also think Rampage is going to do better than Ready Player One opening weekend.
Okay.
I do. I haven't quite. I know it's
think
had
I
some
agree.
screens at South by Southwest, and people are saying that it's pretty good. I just don't feel the energy around that movie that you would assume you would because it's Spielberg and it's all these nostalgia references, and I don't know what it is. If it feels too video gamey or it feels too technical, there's just something that feels a little off with Ready Player One as far as the excitement level that I'm just sensing in
Right.
the ether.
Yeah.
I'm just using my sixth sense,
You know
which
what?
can be very accurate in the past or it can be really, really off track. So
Yeah.
just take it for what it is.
Yeah.
I just think Rampage is going to do better opening weekend.
I think
Purely on a gut check, I completely agree.
I think the sensation you're feeling is when I saw I think it was the second trailer of Ready Player One, there was like a Tron Legacy flavor. And I like Tron Legacy.
It's too much blue, maybe. It's too much
But
blue.
you said the video game kind of unreal thing where you're like, I'm going to see that movie. But when the trailers for Rampage, it's just straight up like, this is what it is.
Yeah.
From beginning to end,
Yeah.
the trailer is like, I'm going to go see giant monsters destroy a building, and The Rock is going to have to save it.
Yeah,
That's a real simple
perhaps
thing.
the simplicity of
Yeah.
the premise is on its side. Not
Yeah.
to mention the fact that The Rock is just on a roll now.
Yeah.
Like he is unstoppable.
Yeah.
So I don't know that Spielberg necessarily has that same unstoppability, if that's a word, in this genre anymore because he's been doing a lot of these more period pieces, a lot more Oscar-y kind of movies, and I don't know if people are still stunning for him to do this type of movie anymore necessarily.
Yeah, Ready Player One, it feels like a movie that's going to be made for people who love the book and people who love video games and believe in the premise of a video game movie. Rampage, although it is a video game movie, feels like much bigger than just a video game movie because there is genius in the simplicity of not throwing all these references in a new one every 2 seconds.
Yeah.
It's three giant monsters and we got to stop them. And it's a lot of fun to see destruction. I will disagree with the Ready Player One trailer 2 that you mentioned because that's the one that had Van Halen's jump in it. So I watched it about 30 times in a row.
When I saw Kong jump and it was like, jump, I was like, I thought of you. So I'm not going to say, I didn't hate the trailer. I'm just saying there was elements of it that were like, oh, all right, that didn't come across as clean as Rampage did. And I feel like that kind of thing, that has a stickiness where you're like, oh, I want to see that. Like the last scene with whatever the newest trailer is with him like flying into the crocodile or whatever, that's a cool scene. Ready Player One, what's the last scene from that trailer? You can't tell me.
No, I just still think of Kong jumping.
Right on. All right.
Which anytime you can see
get-
a
you
giant
get
ape
that.
jump, I want you to think of your old pal, Mark Ellis. We're going to move on to a segment that we have special for this week. We are once again sponsored by Boost Mobile, and it is time for Switch the Script. So here on this segment, we get to take a premise of a movie. I know you're very excited to talk Iron Man 3, and we're going to switch the script a little bit and see whether it would have ended up being a better piece of cinema. That is Iron Man 3, Schnepp. The Mandarin. It was so controversial when it came out. Maybe the most controversial twist in a Marvel or a comic book movie in general to date, where we had Ben Kingsley and all this promo materials. He's very scary, mysterious terrorist, and he's making all these videos, and he's intimidating Tony Stark. And we come to find out about 2/3 into the movie, that's not the guy. He's actually
Right.
just a paid actor by Guy Pearce's character, and he's just throwing us off the scent. A lot of people did not like the way that played out, although I will say, I watched Iron Man 3 again. The scene itself plays very, very well. It's just that in the grand scheme of things, you think, that's a head scratcher. If we switch the script and we make the Mandarin the ultimate baddie that we thought he was going to be, is Iron Man 3 a better movie?
I would say yes and no. Like I was actually pleasantly surprised by that flip and that switch, and I love Ben Kingsley, and like the ability to grab him as like a villain and also as like a pawn and have him play both roles was really smart. And I felt like I remember a lot of the outcry was by a lot of fans who were like, "You lied to me, you sold me the trailer, I was gonna get the Mandarin." And I remember at the time I was like, "Do you know who the Mandarin is?" Because no one really read Iron Man before the movie came out. In fact, people didn't know who Iron Man was. You know, globally, I don't know, what is that, a Ozzy Osbourne song? And be like, sorry, you know. So it's like, now I'm a nerd. I've read the comics. I have to admit it. For years, I knew who the Mandarin was, and I felt like the Mandarin is a stereotypical kind of almost racist character. So I felt like, look, I mean, the way Jon Favreau brought in the idea of the Mandarin with the 10 rings and this terrorist society, I thought was perfect, and I wanted to see that part played out, which it wasn't, which it can still be. So I feel like that they still haven't actually revealed the real Mandarin. I feel even the Guy Pearce guy isn't the real Mandarin. So I feel like that's the kind of thing where it's like deeper levels and deeper layers, and a lot of people were very reactionary. It's like, I want to see Ben Kingsley with the 10 rings. It's like, why don't you relax? It's stupid. Like,
Well,
I've got these amazing 10 rings.
You can be fair and say that they're being a little too reactionary. Like, let's say that there is a huge payoff with the Mandarin at the end of the second Infinity War movie. It's a long time to wait to be like, see, we told you.
Well, no, it's not. I mean, look at you could say the same thing about Thanos. Look at all my little power gems. It's like, but they built it up over time and over 20 movies, so that actually has some kind of resonance and it pays off. So to me, I'm not angry about the little gems in his Infinity Gauntlet. I would be way more pissed if a dude just showed up with like strange magical rings. I mean, or literally in the Iron Man world, those rings would have to be technological, and that would make more sense in the world of Iron Man. I wasn't mad at all, but I see why people felt like maybe they were lied to, but it was actually a good move for the film.
Yeah, there are shades of some of the backlash that Rian Johnson got for The Last Jedi, where I think a lot of fans took Shane Black and said, oh, well, you just went off and did your own thing, and you twisted this too much into your own movie as opposed to fitting this in and honoring this character's legacy. Do you think it's a better Iron Man 3 is a better movie if the Mandarin pays off?
Well, I remember when you were saying we were going to talk about this before the show, and I was just like, I barely even remember Iron Man 3. It was that good. That movie, I mean, it was just such a forgettable non-event for me, just in terms of expanding the MCU storyline and everything. I think my main takeaway was, what a waste of Ben Kingsley. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know enough about the comics to know whether it would have been better or worse if they had actually kind of stuck to the real Mandarin storyline as it's written in the comics. But I do know that I felt Ben Kingsley did the best with what he was given in terms of that flipping of the script within the movie. And, you know, I feel like he was funny in revealing how much of like a cowardly actor he really was and a bit of a diva. But I also think that that wasn't the right use of him. He's like one of the most talented actors of all time. We've seen him be a badass in Sexy Beast. I would have loved to have seen them do more with him as a proper villain.
Yeah, Rocha, I totally agree with T that like this is the script that Ben Kingsley got, and he did everything he possibly could with it. I just think it would have been a better payoff, especially with a movie like Iron Man 3 that we want to see factor into the larger MCU. And what does this mean? This could have intergalactic consequences. Do you agree that the Mandarin should have had more to do and should have been that huge villain that we thought he could be?
Absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something. When I grew up, I wanted to be T because she's very chill, gives her points, and I'm too reactionary, and I love it. I love how she gets to the point, tells it like it is, and I agree with her 1,000%. They completely wasted Ben Kingsley, Sir Ben Kingsley, that is, because he was great as the Mandarin at the beginning, brought a lot of dread. Because if in Iron Man 3, the way it stands now, it's basically The Incredibles, right? He ignored him at a party, and now I'm an evil villain, and I gotta destroy you. Same thing happened with Syndrome. Oh, you wouldn't let me be with like your sidekick. Now I'm gonna destroy you when I'm a villain. So, but when you add Mandarin, and you can even have the scene where he comes out and he's the actor, he's taking the crap and whatever, and comes out and with the women in the bed and all that. You can still have that, but that's him playing him mind games with him, and then in the end still becomes the villain, still is the villain, and shocks Tony Stark even harder because Killian's storyline is not as powerful as the Mandarin storyline. And we saw with Tilda Swinton, you can do The Chosen One and still walk that line of, yes, people think it's kind of racist, but it works because of the actor that you choose kind of transcends that kind of stain that you can put on him or her. So I think it would have been a lot better movie with him. That being said, I don't hate the movie, and I appreciated Shane Black's guts in taking a chance like this, and Marvel taking a chance like this, but I guarantee you they wouldn't do that now.
Let me just say, I appreciate your guys' opinion. You're both wrong. No, it's like I'm totally different, but I see where you're coming from. But I feel like this gave Ben Kingsley the opportunity to show both sides of his incredible acting ability, to be the smarmy, wormy, I'm just playing a role, and also, I will destroy you, the mustache twirling, stupid fake villain that I felt like, if that's what you really wanted, was this a guy who was like, no, I will destroy you, which is kind of how they were playing him. I felt that the script was also showcasing how in our real world we build up people into like these fake puppety type symbols where they're really not that symbol. It's just an image that you're being told to be afraid of, when that's how groupthink and mindthink works in our 1984 world. So welcome to reality. I feel like that's kind of was a little give and take. And if you go back and look at Iron Man 3, they had a lot of problems with the villain, had to do reshoots. Originally it was the female. And she was actually the Mandarin. And they, for whatever reasons, reshot the entire ending.
Rebecca Hall was going to be the Mandarin?
Yes, and all of it was shot, and they replaced all of it. So that's an entire other story we don't have time to get into. That's the movie I want to see, the original villain. That's how I'd flip the script.
I watched Iron Man 3 again recently. It was on TV, and I really enjoy the first 2/3 of the movie, and I actually found myself liking it more than I remembered liking it when I had seen it. But when you see those images or those like little commercials that the Mandarin cuts together, you're like, you'll never see me coming. It's pretty cool, and then you're so impressed with that actual like drunken actor that he can pull those scenes off, and it does take some clever editing as you meet him later. But kind of would have liked to seen the full power of the Mandarin. But Iron Man 3, you're better than what I remembered. We're going to move on to a news story that is involving Netflix. They just inked a deal with Nightcrawler director Dan Gilroy. And if you're a fan of the movie Nightcrawler, he's not coming alone. Jake Gyllenhaal and Rene Russo, both who starred in Nightcrawler, are going to be signing on for this new film. It's still untitled, but it is described as a horror thriller set in a high-stakes world of art commerce, where when you have art and it merges with commerce, what happens? Mega collectors could pay a high price. They are not the only acclaimed actors that are going to be in the new Netflix project. You also have John Malkovich, who's won an Academy Award. Toni Collette, she's been nominated for a whole lot of stuff. And Tony Award winners, including one from Stranger Things. That would be Natalia Dyer, as well as Zoe Ashton, and she's been in a number of things too. I think she was the daughter in the Nocturnal Animals. Yeah, so a lot of good cast here, T. What do you think of this movie for Netflix?
I'm stoked. I can't wait. This was one of those situations. I remember when Nightcrawler first came out, and I was just like, oh, Rene Russo, because I hadn't seen her in so long. Right. It was just like someone who I really like from so many like classic 90s movies. And then with this one, it's kind of a similar experience. Like, oh, Rene Russo again. Not to mention Toni Collette, John Malkovich, all these actors I love and haven't really seen in a little while. And then for them to be re-teaming with Jake Gyllenhaal and like that whole team from Nightcrawler, I'm very excited because I love that movie. I feel like it got horrendously snubbed at the Oscars, and I can't wait to see what they do this time around.
Yeah, all I really thought when I read this description, Rocha, is we have Rene Russo and the world of high stakes art, and I'm thinking Thomas Crown Affair.
Yes, right.
But then this is like a horror thriller vibe, and if you give me a horror thriller vibe, and you give me Dan Gilroy and Jake Gyllenhaal attached to this, plus John Malkovich is going to be creeping around. I'm very excited about this for Netflix.
Absolutely. I mean, I enjoyed Nightcrawler. I agree with T. What she said. It was criminally underlooked, and it should have gotten more awards. I didn't see Roman J. Israel Esquire, so I want to see what he would have done with that. But Denzel got nominated off that, so he must have done something to direct that man really well. So I'm looking forward to this, and I pray to God that it is Rene Russo's character from Thomas Crown Affair, now going back out of retirement, having to solve this situation. Same universe. And then have Pierce slide in at the end, like have a couple of cameos with Pierce, that kind of stuff.
You're ruining it for me, Rocha.
I should be exciting you for it. I love that movie.
Ben Kingsley's the art dealer at the beginning, but he turns out just to be like a huge fan of art.
And Malkovich is the Russian with his accent from Rounders. It's perfect.
Nice.
No, but this is a great combination. And Netflix, once again, putting its carbon footprint, so to speak, really powerfully in the movie world. Once again, they have $8 billion to spend this year. So they are going to spend it and get some really quality directors and actors and projects under their umbrella. So I am absolutely all for this.
Schnepp, that's going to add to Netflix's resume, in your opinion?
Most definitely. I mean, I feel jive with both what you're saying. Like Nightcrawler was such a fantastic film. I just recently rewatched it like 3 weeks ago, and I was like, it stands up. Gyllenhaal's creepy performance, everything about
Riz
it.
Ahmed too.
Oh, yeah,
I
Riz
forgot
Ahmed.
So
how great
amazing.
he is in
Yeah,
that
he's
movie.
great. It's just like it's so well directed and well written, and it's Dan Gilroy who's behind both of that. And so he's like a weapon that people don't think about. So when I hear that he's doing a horror thriller involving art and commerce, I'm like, I'm all in. You couldn't have sold me more. I don't even care who's acting in it. But then you load it up, you front load it with the two main actors from Nightcrawler, and then all this other flavor, Malkovich. I mean, I can't like. I'm bubbling with excitement. I'm like, I don't know what's gonna. What are they like? Weird, high-paid people like playing Get the Snuff movie or what? What is it gonna? What are they buying? What is it? The secret underground, ugly underbelly of extreme wealth. What are they purchasing? Yeah, if it's Dan Gilroy, it's gonna be frightening, and you're gonna walk away with a nightmare.
I don't know. Don't you feel like wealthy people do that though? Like they have these like scary like underground
Yes.
art shows, kind of like you know how wealthy people like when they get together on Saturday night, they like watch street fights with like cars parked in a circle, with all the headlights turned on. What if they do that with like art galleries, but it's kind of like The Purge, where they just have but us poor commoners like wearing masks in weird positions, and it's like rich people do scary stuff at night is the point. I don't know if this movie's gonna explore it all, but I'd be interested to see it too.
Yeah, me too. I mean, it's always nice to think that rich people are doing the worst things because they probably are. And I want to see that well written and directed.
You know what? Sometimes they're not doing the worst thing. Sometimes they're just because when I was going to college and art school in Chicago, I did a couple of dumb things for a bunch of rich people where they were like, "We need you to be a living statue at a party." So me and like 6 other broke artists were like,
That is exactly what I was imagining.
Yeah, just
by
like
the
you have
way.
to stand and people like drinking wine, like, look, he looks like the Greek god of the. You're like, get away from me.
Can you
Or
comment? Like, can you like have funny little witty quips as they're walking by?
I did. You're not supposed to talk to them, but they're like, "What's up?" You know, say stupid stuff because that's me. But
That's Schnepp,
and,
all right.
Yeah, and then I remember I did another thing where somebody was like, "I'm having a birthday party for my rich friend." It was some gold leaf cake, and I was like, "Yeah, I'll do a little performance art for you." And I hired this gal to be Eve, and I hired this other dude to play Jesus, and we like threw apples around and like sang dumb songs. Got paid some fat money. That's what rich people want. They want to be like, entertain me. So you know. But now this could be really dark.
So hey kids, respond to ads on Craigslist if you want to make $100 on a Saturday night. Just check it out there. We're gonna move on. I'm gonna remind you guys at the end of this show, we're gonna save some time for your live Twitter questions. Let's go ahead and start tweeting us right now at Collider Video and use the hashtag Collider Movie Talk. We had the pleasure of having perhaps the greatest actor director of our time, a true visionary in studio, and I was the lucky, fortunate one that got to interview this individual. The whole interview is going to be up as soon as Movie Talk is done. In the meantime, here's a quick morsel. Hello, everyone, and welcome to a very special Collider video presentation where I am lucky enough to be interviewing the mastermind behind The Room and the disaster artist, Mr. Tommy Wiseau.
Oh, hi, Mark. Now I'm talking very openly who I am, what I do, and I personally think that I'm the little rebel of Hollywood.
You want to toss a football around?
Yeah, sure.
This is a movie that you put your
Right.
blood, sweat, and tears into. What was that moment like?
We've been working very hard, and sometimes people do not appreciate, you know. And I think it's just a slap in the face. That's what I can say, you know.
Could you have imagined that the disaster artist was going to put you back into the spotlight?
So they did excellent job. As you know, they released DVD and iTunes and the Blu-ray. So I'm very happy on the finished product. You can laugh, you can cry, you can express yourself, but please don't hurt each other. I'm American, I'm very proud of it. See The Room, have fun.
The full interview is now available on Collider Video, so go check it out. We had a lot of fun, and thank you to Tommy for dropping by our studio to say, oh, hi, Mark. Schnepp, you have breaking news that Nicolas Cage is playing Superman. Is that true?
That's right. That's why I'm wearing the Superman shirt. A couple years ago, Holly Payne and I made this documentary called The Death of Superman Lives, What Happened, which is all about Nick Cage playing this Superman in this film that Tim Burton never made. Back in 1997, 98 was when they were making it. Cut to 20 years later, Nick Cage is Superman. What's up?
The movie's back on?
No, he's in Teen Titans Go. He's playing Superman. He's doing a voiceover of as Superman, and I'm kind of elated about it because it's one of those things where obviously some people, like I know T, you're like, yeah, but like, look, if you see my documentary, you might.
I promise you, I don't care.
You might care a little bit if you saw my doc, and so I feel like all the people who were like, oh, I saw that picture of him all like half-eyed and sleepy. It's
Yeah.
like that's the picture that everybody saw.
Infamous.
There's a lot more to see and hear about if you see my doc. You can get it at my website, tdoslwh.com, still available on Blu-ray. What's up? And then also definitely I'm excited about it. That's all I can say is I was happy that Nick Cage finally gets to see that dream come true. And believe me, he will be an incredible Superman.
He named his son Kal-El.
Yep.
He's into it.
I want to see, like, you know how like when a Pixar movie comes out, they have like some behind the scenes footage, like the actors performing the voiceover. I need to see that footage. I need to see every frame of that footage. 'Cause I want to see Nicolas Cage go full Nicolas Cage to play Superman. That's a huge bonus for that.
They're doing great choices because we did a news piece on it yesterday. Lil Yachty is cast as Green Lantern, and Halsey is Wonder Woman. There's no lie. So they're doing great cameo casting. This is brilliant.
All right, so we are going to move on to live Twitter questions. First, I'm going to remind you guys once again that you can check out the live movie trivia Schmodown on stage. It is here in Southern California, North Hollywood at the El Portal Theater. You can get tickets right now at fullscreenlive.com. You got two huge matches. Our undercard is the Real Rejects versus the Wildberries. And the main event, the headliner matchup, is going to be JTE versus this young man sitting to my left, John, the Outlaw Rocha. Rocha, again, I know you're pumped up because your dear friend since 1984, The Rock, made an Instagram video this morning. How do you feel about the matchup? It's going to be live in front of 300 people Thursday.
Yeah, well, listen, I'm excited because you know what happened over the weekend. You saw that tag team match. It was ridiculous, terrible ruling. That smarmy Jeff Snyder got out of another loss, and they kept their belts. Well, now I'm coming for revenge, JT. You're one half of them, so I've got to exact revenge where I can find it, and I'm coming for you on Thursday night. Get ready, get in that seat, and you better show up. Don't you have car trouble or issues getting to the venue? I will send an Uber to wherever you're at because I'm whooping that butt on Thursday night. So get ready.
All right, I didn't ask you to cut a promo,
Oh,
but that
I'm sorry.
was really good.
I apologize. That's The Rock.
Well, I think JMX is not going to be showing up now. He's full of fear.
JMX, JT, it doesn't matter. He's not good at pronouncing stuff. Why should we pronounce his name properly? That all goes down Thursday. We also have a Fatal Five-Way for the Inner Geekdom that is dropping today. And make sure y'all are following Collider Video on Instagram because we put up pictures every so often and you can leave a funny caption. And now, this Thursday, we're going to be debuting a new show called Caption This. So the best captions that are written on each one of the pics we post are actually going to get mentioned in the new show. So check out Caption This on Thursday and follow us at Collider Video on Instagram. With all that out of the way, let's get to some of these live Twitter questions. A lot of good ones today. Terry McGinnis is going to kick us off at Comic Fan saying, what is the better coming-of-age film? Because these are two fairly compared movies of late. Lady Bird or Edge of 17. For Terry McGinnis, he's going to give his vote to Edge of 17 because, according to him, more heart comedy and a better flow to the story. I loved Lady Bird. I think I'm going Edge of 17, though, T. Which way are you leaning?
I actually didn't see Edge of 17. So by default, I got to go Lady Bird. But can I throw in a Call Me By Your Name for a good coming of age? Because I thought that was an amazing coming of age movie.
That's a great coming of age movie with some comedy in there, too. I mean, I know it's a very serious drama that everybody's talking about, but there's some good comedic moments in there as well. Schnepp, which way are you leaning?
Well, if she's throwing in that, I'm throwing in Diary of a Teenage Girl. I think that's an incredible, amazing coming-of-age story. But if I'm going to stick to the rules, boy, Lady Bird is such a fantastic film, and it's fresh in my mind. But Edge of 17 was so amazing. What a horrible thing. This is like, what do you do? And your mom and dad are above a flame. Which do you save? It's like, that's how I feel. I got to choose one. If I got to choose one, I'm going to by a very slight hair go with Lady Bird just because it's more fresh in my memory and the impact of what that made me feel like. But I remember Edge of 17, Woody Harrelson, I think Haley Steinfeld.
Haley Steinfeld,
yeah, what an incredible film. So.
Okay, well, Rocha, everybody's cheating and throwing their own favorite coming-of-age movie in there before ruling on this particular debate. Which way are you leaning?
Definitely Edge of 17. I like Lady Bird. It's a really good film. But Edge of 17, I just like Haley Stanfield so much since True Grit. And when I see her, and she's a singer, she's incredible, very talented. And her interactions with Woody are fantastic.
Yeah.
And that's what sells the film for me. And as much as I love Laurie Metcalf and Saoirse Ronan, I just kind of liked Edge of 17 a little bit. Surprisingly so. I saw it for the first time 2 weeks ago.
Oh, wow.
And so just randomly on one of the pay channels, and I was like, I haven't seen this yet. And I thoroughly enjoyed
So
it.
it's super fresh. You probably saw Lady Bird, then Edge of 17. So you saw that later.
Yeah, I saw it later, yeah.
Yeah, the real debate for me is Edge of 17 or Perks of Being a Wallflower. Really like that movie.
Yep.
Really coming of age.
Mark, you're cheating now.
I was born to cheat. It's the one thing I'm good at is knowing the rules and how to break them. We have one more question, and that's from Phil Fang Foom, a favorite here on our Twitter handle. What's your favorite sick day movie? He tends to watch any of the Star Wars movies, or he will watch The Office on the tube. So it's a sick day, so you probably just want some comfort food, something to cheer you up a little bit. I usually go with a comedy. When I was a kid, and I've faked a number of sick days in my life, Ferris Bueller's Day Off isn't a bad one, just to make sure you're faking sick right. Just to make sure you're doing all the tricks, you're keeping your hands cold and clammy, all that stuff. I go with Monty Python and the Holy Grail because it is such gut-busting laughter. You forget that if you're actually sick, you're not just faking it. You forget how sick you are at the time because you're having such a good time watching the movie. And you also have to use all 5 senses watching that movie because it's very hard to hear them for the first 10 minutes because it's the British accent. And it's very thick British accent, so I have to really focus my training, my hearing on what exactly they're saying. After that, it's all kick. T?
He mentioned The Office, which made me think of Office Space. That's a big one for me. And then there's also Lebowski. It's probably my favorite movie of all time, tied with Beetlejuice. And like I watch both of them at least a couple times a year. So I rarely get sick, and on the occasions I do, it's time to fire up that Blu-ray.
See, I love Lebowski. For a sick day, it makes me nervous because let's say I'm actually sick, and when you put that movie on at the same time you take your meds, right when the NyQuil really starts kicking in is when Lebowski gets super trippy. So that could either pay huge dividends or freak you out to the point when you have to call someone. I love the Office Space pick because if you're sick as an adult, you're probably not at the office today, so you just get to laugh at everybody who had to show up to work.
Well, I'm gonna pick Steve Martin, Eddie Murphy, Bowfinger. That's like a movie,
Great movie.
underrated film that
Great forgotten
literally
film.
It makes me laugh. I see it at least once a year. I usually don't get sick because of my incredible strong genetics. And but you know, when I want to laugh, I put on Bowfinger, Trading Places, Ferris Bueller's Day Off. I'll be selling my jacket from when I was a cameo back when I was 18. Look on eBay; it's gone up there. I just found it, so I'm actually in Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
That's right.
He's in the crowd scene.
He's in the parade scene
Shake
when he's
it up.
singing Twist and Shout.
Yeah, Twist and Shout. Yeah, I'm singing Shake. Yeah, the right song that Mark said. So yeah, but yeah, I would go with Bowfinger.
John Rocha.
You know, listen, I know I'm a tough guy, but when I get sick, I am vulnerable as hell. I'm a little baby, so I get all like emotional. So I will watch rom-coms. I'm not lying to you. I will watch Groundhog Day, and even to a degree, Coming to America, which I love to pieces. But when I need to feel a little stronger, I'll watch Gladiator. That's a great sick day movie because you kind of can go on this journey. It's a long one, so you can like pass out, wake up again, and you're still in the movie.
My runner-up is any David Cronenberg film.
Oh, what?
Yeah,
Wow.
it's soothing.
Like making lunch?
Yeah, scanners, people's
Wow.
heads exploding. I'm
I'll
like,
give you the
I
fly.
feel better. Yeah.
All right, well, that's here for our sick day at Collider Movie Talk. If you're taking a sick day from work, thank you for joining us. If you're at work right now, thank you for not being productive whatsoever for the last hour of your day. Have a great day, everybody. For T, Rocha, and Jon Schnepp, I am merely Mark Ellis. We'll see you guys tomorrow for a brand new Collider Movie Talk. Hey everybody, Mark Ellis here. Thanks for watching this episode of Collider Movie Talk. You want to watch more? Then click up here, or you can click right here for more great content from Collider. And if you haven't subscribed to Collider Video, do so right now and share this vid with your friends. Thanks for watching.